Good evening, everybody. I know that you can technically watch this or listen to it whenever you want. However, it is the evening, and I'm feeling like it would just be a really nice thing to have a chill time with you guys. There's a couple albums that I want to talk about. I thought about taking these two albums and writing a whole podcast episode for this. However, I feel like I'm really in a spot right now where I need these albums as a reminder for myself. And it's just been a couple few months, like in terms of things just feeling really heavy in the world. And I think when it comes down to your mind processing the amount of information that we have to process, it's just not natural. It's not normal. We're not built to do it. And the past couple days, I've just been really reflecting on what I let into my mind, how much control I give it over my feelings, and trying not to feel powerless in that experience. And one thing I've really noticed over the past couple months is just the way that art becomes extremely prevalent in these times when you need to take a break mentally or you need to reframe something or understand something. I have specifically been using music to help me, which I know is a given. I think anybody watching this channel understands that. But I've been a little bit more intentional about how I use the music and intentional about considering how I'm actually feeling rather than just letting feelings dictate the way I live. I've been taking note of how my mind feels and using music as a tool to kind of reframe and reground myself in those times where it feels like I need to take a breath, a sigh of relief, if you will. I just realized that because music is one of the most prevalent forms of art in the sense that it's accessible through radio, it's accessible through YouTube, it's accessible through streaming platforms, it's in movies and TV. Like, we consume it so often that it almost takes the magic out of what it can do when you find the right artist at the right point in the right situation. If you think about what it's like to go to an art gallery, you are there solely to look at the art. You're there solely to consider what the artist was thinking when they made it, how they were feeling, what story they wanted to tell. And you would stop and you would stare just directly at a piece of art the whole time. But because we can consume music in this passive way, like while working or working out or cleaning, which is all like it's a wonderful thing. It's just you almost forget that you can admire music the same way that you would admire a piece of art on the wall. And I think if you give music that time and the space to do that for you, it can be very, very helpful, which is what I wanted to talk about today. I could probably sit here and talk about so many albums that are helpful, and honestly, at the end of the day, it's whatever works for you that is going to be the most helpful because we build personal relationships with music. But these are two albums that I found in the past year that have provided a sense of relief. It's mostly due to the fact that they're done in such a way that I can get lost in them. And when I talk about consuming music intentionally today, I mean it in the sense that obviously you have free will. You can do what you will, what you want. But the benefit of these albums is to listen to them as an album. It's to honor the reason that the artist put them in that order. That it was released to us as an album, as an intentional collective piece of art. And I think if you do that, you get the most out of this experience and the most relief of tension, the most like the break that your mind needs a little bit. So, like I said, I could talk about so many, but for the sake of you guys, because I am recommending you to listen to a full album, I'm going to talk about two albums today because I feel like that's a fair amount of work. It's basically giving you like over an hour's worth of homework if you actually listen to them, which I don't want to go too overboard for the sake of your guys' time. But yeah, I just think there's something to say about enjoying an album and doing nothing but that. And by that, I mean that I genuinely shut off the light. I put on over the ear headphones, and I just lie down and shut my eyes. Let the music speak for itself. So without further ado, we're going to talk about the first album that I want to talk about tonight, and that is Blizzard by Dub Ellis. So without my knowing, I have unintentionally put in another Irish band. I have nothing to say for myself. I don't mean to do it. They're just on a roll. They genuinely are pumping out the artistry, and they have honestly always been doing that. So, really excited to bring another Irish band to this moment, or at least the lead singer is Irish. Honestly, I did find them maybe 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and there is not very much information online. But I feel like the music speaks for itself and we don't need a whole lot of information. This album in this band shook me to my core and continues to do that. Blizzard by Dub Ellis is a debut album. I discovered this song to the Sandals. It was a Spotify recommendation for me. Honestly, sometimes their recommendations come in so clutch. Like, I know this is going to be an artist that carries through so much time with me because of just how big of an impact this music has already had on me in the few weeks I've had to digest this album. I cannot even believe this is an opening album. With the most respect, when I first heard it, I thought that this must be like the product of a Nepo baby because the music is so good. The band behind it is so good. The lead singer is so good. The artistry, the writing, everything is so good. I just thought, is there a world in which this doesn't happen unless the people who are in this band already have connections somewhere? The answer is yes, because they are not Nepo babies, as far as I can find on the internet or anything. But they are really, really good. Really, really good. And that impression of them just got even better after listening to their live performance. Like, they're the musicians that are better live than recorded. And it's a really hard thing to do, but there's something so special when you can see the life and the passion in someone and kind of see the way that they can actually show who they are through their music and all the pieces that might be too vulnerable to bring up when it's not through music or art in some form. And you can kind of see that in the way that the singer performs. His vocal performance live and on the album is incredible. And while I'm at it, we'll put a little respect on his name. I believe his name is Thomas. And he just does an incredible job. The reason that this album is on this list today as an album that provides a sigh of relief is because I think that, in my opinion, when you go through this album top to bottom, you go through the motions of every single song, the swings and swells up and down of everything that is going on in this album. And on top of that, you layer the vocal performance that you're getting on this album, which is one that's going up and down. Like, there's such a delicate grace to the high notes, but there's such a guttural passion to the lower notes that it reflects how it feels to be in this state of mind where you don't know how to formulate how you're feeling. It's that sense where your mind is so overwhelmed that you can go from feeling like screaming to crying, anger to sadness, and then you can feel so much joy and laughter and then mute the next. Like, it's these complete highs and lows that you're consuming through the internet about everything that's going on in your personal life or even just the surrounding factors of our world. And then you're left with the end of the day where you have to process it all, but it's too much for you to process, especially in any natural way. Like, it's too much to carry. To be completely honest, it can become too much to carry. And an album like this, I just think it brings this catharsis to that experience and lets it be okay. Like, lets it be fine if one moment you're in the depths of the sadness and the next moment you want to dance. Like I said, I think the music really reflects that feeling. Oh my gosh. Let's talk about the wind instrument because there's a saxophone on this There's a cello on this, and these guys visually, I don't know how to guess. They're close to my age. There's something so nice about seeing a group of young musicians put a sax and a cello in their band. Guys, I don't know what to tell you other than the fact that there's so many good things going on in this album. I cannot believe it's a debut album. Every song is good. I really, really love the song Love Is. When You Tie Your Hair Up has been my recent obsession. To the Sandals and Away You Stride. Pale Song, Little Left Hope. Genuinely, every single song on this album has a quality to it that makes it really, really good. And it gets better every time I listen to it. Like, this is the type of album that you remember hearing for the first time if you give it the respect it deserves by just listening to it and doing nothing else. It'll truly be a moment that you remember for a while, and I think if you're going to go away from this video and decide not to listen to the full album, because again, you have the right to do that, I would just say try to listen to the Sandals, because I think it encompasses a lot of what's on this entire album into one song. However, Away You Stride is one of the most beautiful songs I've heard in a really, really long time, and it will completely strike you. It will completely take all of your attention and focus it in on that song. As does the whole album, but there's something so beautiful about Away You Stride. And again, the reason this album is on this list is because of its nature to bring you completely into it and to give you a place to kind of get lost in the music that you're consuming. I have loved it. It only came out December 5th, 2025, so it's very recent, very new. They are doing great things. I think they had opened for Geese recently and are doing some solo shows here and there. And wow, will I hope one day to see them live. And hopefully I can do it in a small venue, because I would love to see them in a state where I can just listen to them. And respectfully to me and to everyone around, it's an experience where the audience isn't singing, because I would really, really love to just hear this music as it is, because it is that good. The next album that I'm going to talk about is the album called Deeper Sleeper by Deeper Sleeper. This one is one I've known for a little bit longer and have actually known the artist himself for longer, because I did discover after listening to the first song that I heard off this, which was Want, that the lead singer, because I noticed very quickly that if it wasn't this guy, I was going to be really confused on who I was listening to, because I was almost certain that it was Joshua from the Backseat Lovers, and it is in fact Joshua from the Backseat Lovers. He's a very distinct voice, so that's why I was going to be completely shocked if it wasn't. But that made me really, really excited to get to go into this whole album and have a new album to listen to from one of the minds behind the Backseat Lovers, because their album Waiting to Spill has been an album that also has been very influential in my life and is carried through for a few years now. It's still as good as it was a few years ago to me. It deals with a lot of conversations around time and not being able to stop it, obviously, but kind of struggling with the idea that it's just going to continue to pass and having to learn to be okay with that ultimately. And he kind of brings on some of those same feelings throughout this album. Obviously, this is going to be more personal to his own life, but there's definitely a couple moments lyrically that reflect some of those feelings. I could talk about Waiting to Spill forever, but I do have a podcast episode on it on its own, so I'm not going to talk about it. And we are here to talk about his self-titled solo album. This album is one of those albums that you should listen to as a full album, because it provides a really, really unique experience when listening to it in the way that it was produced. And the sounds that he included, the stylistic choices he made, make the most sense when you hear it top to bottom. And it has this really unique quality where if you do that, it makes you feel like you have transported into somebody else's mind and you're kind of reflecting on their memories, which is why I've put it in this list, because when I listened to it for the first time, I completely escaped to this entirely different world, and I genuinely felt like I was experiencing someone else's experiences. Like I wasn't recalling back to imaging I'd seen in my mind or memories that I had. It was a very new experience. And that moment obviously gave me a little bit of a break from my own mind and a little bit of the ability to feel creative and to feel free and to feel at peace because of all of those things. Towards the end of the album, there's two songs. One is Riverflies and the next is Winding Up. And the two of them come together to play really, really well. The chords on Riverflies really remind me of my childhood, and I don't have an explanation for that. I haven't been able to figure out what it is that it's reminding me of, but it's a reflection to how there's many moments within this album that feel playful. Like, I'm going to pull up some lyrics actually so that I can explain to you better what I want to say. So, going quickly to the beginning of the album, it starts with a song called Right Now, which is a song that I would recommend if you're not going to listen to the whole album. This is a really good one to listen to. But the first verse, he sings, I quit hoping and I can't wait to hope again. I quit smoking and I can't wait to quit again tomorrow. And that's what I mean by this playfulness, especially if you actually listen to him sing it and not just me read the lyrics out to you. You get a better idea of what I mean by that. There's a little bit of this wonder that goes throughout the whole album that allows you to bring in that sense of peace and joy back into a head that is maybe a little bit jumbled and overwhelmed with negative feelings. And then the song Riverflies I was talking about earlier. He begins it by singing morning moss crawling over my toes, river cries, buzzing flies, letting out sighs, seeing sights. Sights don't turn to see me. Afternoon windows. Dogs say hi. They say goodbye. Seeing spots. Disconnecting dots. And you can see literally in that verse, he sings, letting out sighs. And there's that lightness to this piece of work that in those heavy moments are the things that we need to be consuming to kind of reground us and allow us to gain a new perspective to go into that next day with a better mindset and to be able to tackle some of the things that feel untackable. That's definitely not a word, but I think you got my intention. And this just really gets characterized as you go into that next song called Winding Up. This song has one of my favorite verses on this entire album, and I'm going to read it to you as I have read the other ones. He sings, let's make fun of all the rats, rats racing. Time is not a race worth winning. Let's find beauty in the human beings. Every one is one worth being. Every one is one worth being. When I first read that, and not just listened to it, but I actually read it, I almost started crying because he says the simplest things, but in the most beautiful ways. And this is one of the skills that is carried through on the Backseat Lovers albums, especially their most recent one. But I just loved the play on human beings and being a being. Like, I think that I don't need to explain it for you to understand what I'm trying to say. But even the title of the song itself, Winding Up, I find to be really interesting in this conversation of winding down, because he kind of reframes that statement. Because I don't know about you, but to me, when I first see the phrase winding up, it's a phrase that really contradicts winding down. And I feel like we use the phrase winding down more often. And so when you go into this song, Winding Up, you feel like it's going to be this building of tension. And to some extent, it is, because it's dealing with these existential questions a little bit if you get into it and you listen to the full song. But in the chorus, he sings, now let's wind up the week and start waiting. And I think for him to use the title Winding Up and to kind of contradict it in what he's saying lyrically allows it to have a new definition where you can feel stress and anxiety and fear and acknowledge that those feelings, while they are there and they're probably there for good reason because of the things that you're handling, You don't have to solve them all at once. And to be completely honest, there's a lot of things that as you get older and you know more about the world and you consume more media, there's a lot of things that we can't solve. The most beneficial thing that we can do is to calm our mind and then to help those around us and to help our local community, because that type of outreach is going to be the one that then branches out into the world on a higher level. But it's a hard thing to grapple with those feelings when you're consuming negative after negative after negative and to feel like you can do anything positive. So I think the first thing that you can do for yourself, like I've been saying this whole video, is to take a break, let the body get back to a state where you can have a sigh of relief, and then work at a smaller scale of something good that you can offer to the world, something good that you can offer to your family, to your friends. Because trying to tackle things that are really, really big, or even things that they can't be tackled alone, is going to do nothing but overwhelm you even more. So I think the takeaway for today's video is that it doesn't have to be these albums that do that for you. There's definitely albums that I know you listening right now are thinking about for yourself that work, but it's just the ability to reframe what things you're intentionally bringing into your mind and allow those things that are going to be good, like art, to become more of a stronghold in your mind and to become something that you go back to in order to find a level of grounding and a level of peace within everything that's going on. I think it would be nice to end today's video with a quote from Pinterest. So I'm going to go scroll through and find something. Okay, this is a poem called The Clearing by Martha Postlethwaite. I don't know anything about Martha, but I know that this is a good poem. So she says, "Do not try to serve the whole world or do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently until the song that is yours alone to sing falls into your open cupped hands and you recognize and greet it. Only then will you know how to give yourself to the world so worthy of rescue." Lastly, let's all take a deep breath. Thanks for being with me here today. I hope that you check out this music. I hope that you enjoy it. These are both really underrated artists. These albums are smaller than they should be, and they both deserve recognition and excitement around what they're doing and what they're going to be doing next. So obviously I will have all the music linked down below for you guys. And as always, let's let music bring us together. And don't forget to grow up slowly.